Hey, kindergartners, it's Mark. I miss you. Hey, in the month of April, if we were at school, one artist that we would have been studying this month would have been my absolute favorite of our ancient artists, an artist that lived a long time ago, Leonardo da Vinci. And guess what? He had long hair like me. So I am going to walk you through a little bit about Leonardo da Vinci so we can learn something about him. First of all, I want to let you know that he is from the country of Italy. And yeah, he died a long time ago, but he died an older man, so he had a great life and he did some awesome work. But he did more than just paint. He was a sculptor, he was a scientist, he was a biologist. He was into studying the human body. He was into creating buildings. So he was in some ways an engineer and an architect. So I'm going to turn the camera around so that I can show you some things about him. Okay, here we go. So first of all, I'm going to show you, for those of you, this is the back of my house. It's kind of our living room right here. And right here I have some of the tarantulas right there. Curly is on the bottom. And then Fuega, hissing cockroaches. Remember them? Remember when we had the race? And there's the crickets right there, okay? And that goes out to my backyard. And probably in just a little bit, my dogs will come here and they like to help me out with this, okay? So anyway, this is Leonardo da Vinci. And I actually bought this when I was in Italy, when I was in Florence. So I put this on the mantle in our fireplace in the living room, just as a reminder of absolutely my favorite artist. See, it says right there, Leonardo. All right. And he is known for painting probably the most famous painting in the world. Okay? The most famous painting in the world. And even though he painted it in Italy, it is actually in Paris, France, at the Louvre, at the art museum there. So I'm going to kind of show you right now. There she is. Anybody know what her name is? Yeah, it's the Mona Lisa. She's called Mona Lisa. And this painting is famous partly because of her smile, just a little bit of a smile. And the way he used brush strokes where there weren't any lines, just everything kind of were brush strokes that blended together right there. But what's really cool about this painting, and it's kind of hard to see, but if you stand in front of it and you walk around, it looks like her eyes are following you, okay? So I'm going to try to do that just a little bit, okay? Just as I move this, she's still looking at you. But like I said, it's kind of hard to tell with this way of walking around right there. But this is the Mona Lisa. The way she has her hands folded right there. The way he created this sort of cool background in the back right there, okay? So, Mona Lisa. And I'm going to show you a few things. A few of her paintings right here. This is the lady with an ermine, all right? And I'm going to show you kind of what he looked like as an older man. He had a big beard, didn't he? But this was a sketch that he did, all right? And let's see right here. This is also kind of one of his paintings. They're very lifelike, but I have to tell you, Leonardo, like so many artists at that time, I don't know why, but they made babies look kind of ugly. All right, don't tell them I said that. But artists back then still hadn't quite figured out how to paint babies. So next we have, let's see, here's this painting right here. And he did, oh, did I miss one? Let me see if I missed one. Nope, I have it. For many of his paintings, and I saw this painting in Florence also in Italy, he used the same model for a lot of his of his people. And actually, this model was a young man who had a kind of a very pretty face. So he used this guy even for the faces of his angels right there. Okay, that's called the Annunciation. So, look, another ugly baby. And here is the portrait of Ginevra da Vinci. I saw this painting actually at the museum in Washington, D.C., at the National Art Museum. And look how he painted the hair right there. Look how tight that is. Such detail. Some people believe that part of the painting was cut off at the bottom. Who knows? And this was a study of perhaps what her hands might have been underneath. Great sketching, isn't it? And let's see, I'm going to also, as I turn the pages here, he was, of course, also an architect. Look how he did some drawings using perspective and using lines to try to figure out how far away things should be and how it looks as things kind of go off into the distance. Here, once again, look at that face. That face belonged to a guy named Giacomo. There's the same face again, right there. All right. And like I said, he was a designer. He was just determined, absolutely determined to be able to make a flying machine. Oh, what do you think about that, baby? Huh? Anyway, so this is the, let's see, natural science. This is the Vitruvian Man right here, okay? Sometimes we see that as sort of a symbol drawn on t-shirts. He loved to study the human body. And he also was known for making caricature pictures of people, where, remember we talk about that? Exaggerating people's faces. Like if you had a big nose, he'd make the nose big. If you had a big chin, he'd make the chin really big. And sometimes he didn't make very good friends by exaggerating the way that they looked right there. Isn't that a funny face? Yeah. Here's on the front of the book, the lady with the ermine. Ermine is a type of mink. And he apparently made a huge sculpture of a horse, but apparently that horse was destroyed because they needed the metal that was a part of it during a war. So anyway, this is the Last Supper. And you know, one thing that Leonardo didn't do that Michelangelo did, he didn't paint on a fresco, meaning he didn't paint on wet plaster. So his paintings sort of disintegrated. So people spent a lot of money trying to restore this painting right here. This is what it would have looked like, 400 or 500 years ago. Okay, sketches. Let me just breeze along here. Look at that face. Isn't that a pretty face? Huh? And look, there's that same face that he used from that one model, kind of a friend of his. Same thing there, okay. And the Mona Lisa, which is in the book here, of course. And let's see, I'm gonna finish up in this book. There we go. I love this. I just love the look on this guy's face. But you know what? This is a guy, but this is absolutely that same model, okay? So he used that guy a lot for using that as a portrait on so many of his paintings. So this is also a book on his inventions. I'm not going to walk it through that, but doesn't that look like some of our geometric modules, some of our geometric solid shapes here? All right. And, somebody's just at my foot. Who's that? Oh, yep, there's my dog. There's Lucy right there. Say hi, Lucy. There you go. Nope, stay there. So, and then this is a book, and I'm not going to read it right now, but it's a fun book. And it talks about Leonardo and his friend Giacomo, who was a young boy who he somewhat adopted, but Giacomo was always getting in trouble. And one of my favorite stories is that Leonardo, knowing that Giacomo would sneak things and take money away and whatever, and would take away some of the sugar-coated almonds out of a box, that Leonardo decided to play a trick on him, and instead, in the box of almonds, he instead took a lizard and he glued wings, bat wings to it, so it looked like kind of a dragon. And when Giacomo opened it up to sneak some sugar-coated almonds, he screamed. And Leonardo in the other room laughed, knowing exactly what had happened. So anyway, he was a prankster. Kind of a fun story. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the story, because it's about, kind of reminds me of some of you in terms of, of some of you are artists, some of you are engineers, some of you are biologists, botanists, that you enjoy plants. And so this is called Leonardo da Vinci. And look, there's a picture of a windmill that he built, that he created as a kid. He built this. So that was pretty amazing to be able to do that at that age right there. Leonardo da Vinci. Okay. So I'm going to start off here with this picture right there. Okay. Here, let me put this up just a little bit more. Let me make sure that you guys can see this. Okay. Here we go. All right. Leonardo was a very curious and bold little boy. Every day he would walk the countryside and look at things and ask questions like you. Why did the rainbow have those wonderful colors? Why did pebbles thrown in a pond make so many circles which spread out and out and out? Have you ever noticed that? When you throw something into the pond like that? Remember we talked about concentric circles like tree rings? Right here. Okay? And when he put twigs in the brook, where did the water carry them? Leonardo's father was very proud of his son, who was always busy and had so many interests and so many imaginative ideas. Leonardo lived in a village. His father worked in the city, but often came to the village to see Leonardo. And every time he came, he wanted to know everything about his son and what he did. One day, he was told that Leonardo had done nothing but build using mud and stones. Leonardo had built a castle with very high towers. He had also built a small wooden bridge and a pinwheel that worked very well. Leonardo's father was a notary and belonged to a family in which all the men for over 200 years had been notaries. Notaries handled legal papers, kind of like lawyers. You have to have a notary to sign something if you want to buy a house or maybe get married, something like that. Watching Leonardo running with the pinwheel, his father thought, I'm glad about this interest. Leonardo will become an engineer or perhaps an architect. He will break with this boring tradition of becoming a notary. Very happy, Leonardo's father went back to the city and brought books on engineering, mechanics, and architecture. But when he returned to the village, people told him that his son hadn't built castles, bridges, or pinwheels for some time. Instead, he did nothing but study nature. He closely watched crickets and ants and other insects. He collected pebbles and sat for hours examining the form and pattern of flowers, leaves, and acorns. Perhaps I was wrong, his father thought. Watching Leonardo spellbound by a beetle, it appears Leonardo will become a scholar of the natural sciences. Yes, I think he will become a famous botanist or perhaps a geologist. He will break with this tiresome tradition of becoming a notary. And remember, a geologist is someone who studies rocks. Very happy, Leonardo's father went back to the city and bought books on botany, natural sciences, and geology. But when he returned to the village, he was told that his son no longer studied insects, pebbles, and flowers. Instead, now he only drew. He drew everything he saw: farmers' tools, water jars, lambs, olive trees, and straw bundles. He also drew large geometrical figures and ornamental designs. Perhaps I've been mistaken, his father thought, looking at Leonardo jumping in and out of large squares drawn in chalk on the ground. Leonardo will become a painter. Yes, I'm sure he will. He will become a great painter and break this dull notary tradition. Very happy, Leonardo's father went back to the city and bought paints, brushes, large sheets of paper, and books on geometry and ornamental design. But when he returned to the village, he was told that Leonardo had stopped drawing. Instead, Leonardo was now interested in flying. He spent hours watching the way birds flew, how they flapped their wings, how they hovered with the beat of their tails, how they let themselves be carried by the air, how they glided back to the earth. Leonardo's interest in flying led to an interest in the air itself. He watched how the wind chased the clouds and how the leaves falling from the trees gently circled in the breeze. Leonardo also made a large kite that flew high in the sky. This time, however, his father felt discouraged. This child of mine is fickle, meaning he changes his mind a lot, his father thought. Watching Leonardo running with the kite string in his hand, he starts 100 things and then he gets tired of them. Perhaps Leonardo will end up becoming a notary after all. Very unhappy, Leonardo's father went back to the city. He was worried about his son. He did not know what would become of Leonardo. But when he returned to the village again, people told him that his son was once again building castles, bridges, and pinwheels, and that now, moreover, he had also built a windmill that worked perfectly. Wow, look at that. They told him that Leonardo was once again watching insects, pebbles, flowers, and leaves, and that now, moreover, he also studied larger animals, foxes, porcupines, and badgers. And he was told that Leonardo was once again drawing what he saw, as well as geometrical figures and ornamental designs, and that now, moreover, he drew portraits of everyone he knew. Leonardo's father also heard that his son was still interested in how birds flew and how the air behaved, and that now, moreover, he wanted to fly himself. Leonardo had, in fact, made 2 large wings and launched himself from the roof of a barn. Luckily, he had fallen on a pile of straw without hurting himself. Oh, I'm glad he did that. Also, something new had happened. Leonardo now wanted to stay up at night to look at the planets, the stars, and the moon. Leonardo's father suddenly understood that his son was not fickle and not half-hearted in his interests. Leonardo was, in fact, interested in everything and had an extraordinary ability for everything. Leonardo grew up to become everything his father thought he would: engineer, architect, botanist, painter, inventor. He became all this and more, for Leonardo da Vinci was one of the greatest thinkers and creators of all time. It's a great story. So, my friends, I hope that you're able to just learn something about Leonardo da Vinci. Maybe we can talk a little bit about him during our Friday Zoom meeting that we will have, okay? And there are other things that we'll be doing that I'll be sending out on Mondays for you perhaps to see on Tuesday. We're studying a little bit about Leonardo, a couple little language things, a couple science things, So anyway, I hope all of you are well. I miss you. I love you. Stay well, okay? All right. Bye-bye.